Have you ever felt like your friend group had an extra shadow?
Oh, that is a creepy thought.
Right. You know the feeling, like a presence on the periphery that only seems to shift when you aren't looking directly at it.
Like something you just can't quite focus on.
Exactly. So imagine you're sitting at a table with your closest friends. You're laughing, sharing stories, pouring drinks, and then you look over at a guy in a charcoal suit sitting right next to you.
Okay, setting scene.
You swear you've known him for years. I mean, he's nodding, smiling at all the punchlines, but as you stare at him, this cold realization just washes over you.
Let me guess. You don't know who he is.
None of you actually know his name or, how he even got to the table.
Wow. Yeah, that taps into a very specific, deeply unsettling kind of paranoia. It's where your own social reality just starts to fray at the edges.
Totally. And today's deep dive is dissecting a digital narrative that weaponizes that exact feeling. We are looking at a chilling 3-minute video script and its accompanying production treatment.
It's titled The Reserve Table, right?
Yes, which is an excerpt from a larger project called The Seventh Guest at the Velvet Grotto.
It really serves as a fascinating case study in modern digital storytelling, particularly in how it fuses narrative structure with, very specific algorithmically driven production techniques.
To manipulate the viewer.
Exactly, to manipulate the viewer's psychological state.
So our mission today is to break down how this short narrative masterfully uses psychological dread, the corruption of memory, and highly targeted audiovisual cues.
To craft a modern uncanny valley horror experience.
Spot on. We're going to explore the story beat by beat, and then we'll open up the actual production notes to see how the creators literally engineered this specific nightmare.
I love looking at the blueprints for this kind of stuff.
Right. So whether you are a fan of horror, a creator interested in digital storytelling, or just someone fascinated by the weird vulnerabilities of human memory, we're going to see exactly how media manipulates our sense of reality.
Because the real terror in this piece doesn't come from, like, a monster jumping out of a closet.
No, not at all.
The terror comes from realizing your own perception is fundamentally compromised.
So let's set the scene, because the physical setup perfectly mirrors the psychological descent these characters are about to experience.
You're very deliberate.
Yeah. We have a group of 6 friends. They're heading to a place called the Velvet Grotto. And the script is very specific in describing this not just as, like, a restaurant down the street. It's a high-end, exclusive underground spot.
Located 3 full flights of stairs below the city streets.
Which is important, right?
Oh, absolutely. The geography there is doing a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, in storytelling, a literal descent often parallels a psychological one.
They're going underground.
Right. They're leaving the surface world, the realm of sunlight, objective truth, normal rules, and they're submerging themselves into a subterranean environment where the baseline rules of reality might not apply.
And the friction starts the literal second they reach the bottom.
Yeah.
So they have a strict reservation for exactly 6 people. But the host of the restaurant, who, by the way, the script specifically notes does not blink during this entire interaction, he lays out 7 menus on the table.
That lack of blinking is such a great, creepy detail.
It's so unsettling. So Sarah, one of the friends, she laughs it off. She points out the mistake, politely saying, there are only 6 of them. But the unblinking host just stares at the table and whispers, "My apologies, I counted 7.
Notice how the group reacts there, though? They just brush it off as a quirk of the service industry.
It's just a weird waiter.
Yeah, psychologists call this normalcy bias. When our brains encounter a minor anomaly or a threat, our immediate instinct is to minimize it.
We want things to be normal.
Exactly. We force it into a framework of normal so we don't have to expend the energy to panic.
Well, they sit down, the appetizers arrive, and they try to maintain that normalcy. But the script notes the atmosphere physically changing. The air in the room grows heavy and, like, strangely cold.
The environment is shifting.
Yeah. And Mark, another friend, pauses while pouring wine. He looks across the table, seemingly confused, and he just starts counting the glasses.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The physical environment is now actively contradicting their known, accepted reality.
The normalcy bias is completely cracking.
Right, because the physical evidence is undeniable at this point.
And sitting right next to Chloe, just nodding along to whatever story she was telling, is a man in a charcoal suit,
The seventh guest.
the seventh guest. And the terrifying part isn't that he's some hideous ghoul with fangs. He looks entirely ordinary. He's young, well-dressed, completely mundane.
But there's a catch.
A huge catch. When the group tries to actually pinpoint his identity, their brains hit a complete buck wall. The script describes him as feeling like a forgotten college roommate or cousin they just haven't seen in years.
See, the narrative here introduces a cognitive block instead of a physical threat.
Which is so much worse.
It really is. Traditional horror relies on external danger, you know? A man with a knife, an alien, a ghost. This relies on internal betrayal.
You can't trust yourself.
The horror is rooted in you imagining the terrifying vulnerability of a failing mind. If you can't trust your own biographical memory, the whole foundation of your identity just dissolves.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading this, I kept trying to find a word for that exact sensation, that mental brick wall.
Did you find one?
I did. I realized it's like jamais vu.
Oh, the opposite of déjà vu.
Exactly. We all know déjà vu, that feeling that you've experienced something new before.
Mm-hmm.
Jamais vu is the exact opposite. It's when something entirely familiar suddenly feels utterly alien.
That is a great way to put it.
It's like when you stare at a word you know perfectly well, like the word window, and you stare at it for so long that the meaning detaches. And suddenly, it just looks like a completely bizarre, misspelled collection of shapes.
That is a phenomenal analogy. In linguistics, they actually call that semantic satiation.
Oh, really? Semantic satiation.
Yeah. Your brain fires the same neural pathway so many times in rapid succession that the pathway temporarily exhausts itself, and the meaning is just stripped away.
You just lose it.
You know the word, you know it, but the meaning is just gone. And what the script does is take that localized brain glitch and it applies it to a human being.
So you're looking at this guy in the charcoal suit, and your brain is screaming, I should know him, but the file is missing.
That would drive anyone crazy.
And the friends are spiraling. So Chloe decides she has to test the stranger. She drops the polite dinner party act and flat out asks him, how do we know you again?
The direct approach.
Yeah. But his response completely shatters the illusion of normalcy. He doesn't speak. He turns his head toward her, but the script says his neck moves too slowly, like rusty hinges.
Oh, that's deeply gross. The sudden introduction of mechanical, unnatural movement just pulls the rug out from under the character.
It's not just a memory glitch anymore.
Right. It takes that subtle cognitive dread and makes it a visceral, physical wrongness.
And he doesn't say a word. He just slowly raises his arm and points to a framed photo hanging on the restaurant wall.
Okay.
It's a Polaroid taken by the house photographer just 10 minutes prior, when they were all having drinks at the bar.
And let me guess who's in it.
They look at the photo. There are all 7 of them. The stranger is standing right in the middle, looking perfectly integrated. He's smiling. He's got his arms slung around Sarah and Mark, looking like he's been their best friend for decades.
That's horrifying.
Total panic sets in. The group jumps up, abandoning the table, trying to just escape the building. But the restaurant architecture has changed.
It's shifted.
It's become infinite. Every hallway, every door they take just leads them right back to the exact same dining room.
With the same 7 plates. And the same 7 chairs.
The physical space is warped to mimic their internal cognitive loop.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they are trapped in a cycle of trying to reconcile their memory with their reality, and so the building traps them in a literal cycle. I want to push back on the logic of the scene for a second, just to really explore the mechanics of why this breaks their minds so completely.
Sure, go for it.
Why is a fresh photograph so immediately paralyzing? People photobomb pictures all the time.
True.
A rational person would just assume this creepy guy jumped into the frame 10 minutes ago. Why does that single piece of paper trap them in an infinite hallway?
Well, it comes down to the clash between objective proof and subjective memory. And honestly, how much weight modern humans give to documentation.
We trust photos more than ourselves.
In our current world, a photograph isn't just a memory aid, it's considered objective truth. When your internal memory insists on one reality, but physical, objective documentation insists on another, it creates a severe schism.
It's like a corrupted save file in a video game.
How so?
Imagine you've been playing this game for 50 hours. You know the main characters, you know the lore. But suddenly there's a glitch in the code. A random background NPC, a completely non-playable character, suddenly rewrites the game's actual architecture.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Now they were in all the cutscenes, they hold all the legendary gear. The game treats them as if they've been the protagonist the entire time.
That's a great way to think about it.
Your own memory of playing the game doesn't matter anymore because the base code itself has been overwritten. That photograph is the base code of their reality being rewritten.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that's precisely the mechanism at play. The anomaly hasn't just joined the dinner table. He has retroactively altered the architecture of their timeline to include him.
He wrote himself in.
Exactly. If he is in the photograph, the universe agrees he belongs there. And if he belongs there, they literally cannot leave without him. He has made his presence structural to their reality.
Which makes the next narrative beat so incredibly stressful. We get this momentary gasp of air. Mark just loses it. He screams at everyone to stop trying to navigate the geometry of the hallways and just run.
Just blind panic.
They stop thinking and rely on pure adrenaline. They burst through a heavy steel door, hit the stairwell, and they just bolt upwards. Their lungs are burning. They're stumbling over each other until they finally burst through the doors at the top and hit the freezing night air of the city sidewalk.
It's the classic tension and release structure.
You made it out.
Right. The narrative provides an ascent back to the surface, back to the real world. You have to let the audience experience the physical relief of an escape before you deliver the final blow.
And the relief feels so incredibly earned. Under the harsh glow of the streetlights, Sarah is physically sobbing. She leans against a brick wall and counts the group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exactly 6. The man in the charcoal suit didn't follow them out of the basement. They are safe.
The operative word there being that their perception tells them they are safe.
Right, because the story then cuts to later that night. The adrenaline is worn off. Sarah's sitting alone in her dark bedroom. The house is completely quiet.
Classic horror setup.
Her phone buzzes on the nightstand. The restaurant's automated system has emailed her the digital copies of their dinner photos.
Oh, no.
She opens the first attachment. 6 friends at the table, totally normal.
Sure.
Opens the second one. 6 friends having a great time.
The pacing here is agonizing.
It is.
The audience knows the safety is an illusion, but the delay forces them to wait for the drop.
And then she opens the final photo. The timestamp shows it was taken after they ran away in terror.
Wait. Taken after?
Yes. It's an image of the dark, empty restaurant table in the basement. Nobody is sitting there. But left on the table is an empty, polished wine glass.
Okay.
In the curved reflection of that glass, she sees movement. All 6 of the friends are visible in the reflection, pounding on the inside of the glass, screaming, locked inside the curvature of the reflection.
Oh, wow.
And standing on the outside of the glass in the dark restaurant, looking directly into the camera lens, is the 7th guest. But he's wearing Sarah's face.
It is a devastating, profound pivot that fundamentally changes the genre of the story.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The horror isn't that a monster chased them out of a basement. It's the realization that the victimhood shifted dimensions without them even noticing.
Yes.
The entity didn't just haunt a dinner party. It executed a flawless, cosmic identity theft.
It recontextualizes that entire visceral escape sequence. It asks you, the listener, to run that tape back in your mind and question who actually ran up those stairs.
Because it wasn't them.
Exactly. Who felt the burning lungs? Who counted to 6 under the streetlights? It wasn't Sarah and her friends. It was the anomaly, wearing their lives, performing the physical relief of an escape it had just orchestrated.
When they felt the cold night air, that was the monster feeling the cold night air for the first time.
From a structural standpoint, the deployment of the wine glass reflection is brilliant. I mean, mirrors and reflective surfaces are ancient horror tropes.
Totally. Bloody Mary, all of that.
Historically, they serve as a barrier between dimensions, showing us ghosts standing behind us or revealing a distorted, evil version of our own world.
But this is different.
The twist here is that the reflection isn't showing a distortion. The reflection is the prison. The glass permanently traps the original consciousness of the protagonist in the wrong reality, while the anomaly assumes control in the physical world.
That feeling of being trapped in a reflection, of being replaced by something artificial, it isn't just an accident of the writing.
No, it's baked into the production.
And fortunately, if we look at the second half of our source material, the creator's actual production notes, we can see exactly how they engineered that feeling of entrapment and replacement using specific digital tools. We are literally deconstructing the nightmare to see the blueprints.
The mechanics of manipulation become very transparent when you read the treatment.
So the visual style of the video is explicitly instructed to be a dark, grimy, wide-eyed, uncanny valley animation.
Okay, very specific.
The notes mandate the use of AI image generators, specifically programs like Midjourney, which build images out of digital static based on text prompts. And the prompts they list for the creators to use are fascinating.
What are they?
Or animation, uncanny valley, wide eyes, distorted smiles, dark cinematic lighting, extra fingers, grainy texture.
They are deliberately aiming for the inherent flaws in AI generation rather than trying to make it look flawlessly human.
Why do those specific flaws, though, the weird eyes, the distorted smiles, the extra fingers, why do they trigger such a visceral fear response in us? Like, why does the uncanny valley work on a biological level?
Well, it's rooted deep in our evolutionary biology. Programs like Midjourney don't understand the underlying skeletal or muscular structure of a human being.
They just see pixels.
Right, they just aggressively pattern match surface pixels. So they routinely generate a smile with too many teeth, or hands where the joints bend in ways bone cannot physically bend.
Which is so unsettling to look at.
Because when the human brain encounters something that looks 99% human but 1% profoundly wrong, it doesn't process it as bad art. The amygdala, the fear center of the brain, processes it as a biological threat.
Like a sickness.
Exactly. It signals disease, severe genetic mutation, or a corpse. Evolutionarily, we are hardwired to be terrified of the almost human to protect ourselves from pathogens. The creators are weaponizing our own biological disease avoidance systems.
That is wild.
Hmm.
They're using code to trigger a primal fear of infection. And they pair that visual biological threat with very specific audiovisual timing.
How so?
The audio instructions call for a deep bass ambient track that only swells during the investigation phase, like when they're staring at the photograph.
Building the tension.
Yeah. And the subtitles are mandated to be in the CapCut style. For anyone unfamiliar, that's a very specific short-form video editing style where bold yellow or white text pops up in the dead center of the screen, one single word at a time, very rapidly.
Oh, the CapCut style is highly kinetic. It forces what's called foveal vision.
Foveal vision.
Yeah, your sharpest central focus. It forces it to stay entirely locked on the middle of the screen just to keep up with the dialogue.
Which brings us to the most crucial visual interaction noted in the script. The creator notes that every single time the narrator says a number, like when Mark is counting the glasses or Sarah is counting the friends under the streetlight, the editor must insert a quick subliminal flash of a distorted face or a hidden figure in the background.
That is so smart.
Okay, I understand the creepy aesthetic, but tying the jump scare specifically to the act of counting seems so strange.
Yeah.
What's a psychological mechanism there? Why numbers?
What's fascinating here is how it creates an immediate Pavlovian response by exploiting your visual field.
Oh, because of the subtitles.
Exactly. Because those CapCut subtitles are forcing your central vision to lock onto the middle of the screen, you get tunnel vision. Those subliminal flashing faces are happening entirely in your peripheral vision.
In the corners of your eyes.
And human peripheral vision is packed with rod cells, which are highly sensitive to motion and changes in light. It is our ancestral predator detection system. By flashing threats in the periphery, the creator bypasses your logical brain and hits your survival instincts directly.
So they're basically throwing a predator into your blind spot. But why tie it to the character's counting?
Think about what counting represents. Counting is a logical tool. It is how human beings ground themselves in reality. We count our change, we count the exits in a room, we count our friends to establish order and safety.
It's how we know things are okay.
By pairing the logical act of counting with these peripheral predator flashes, the creator completely subverts that tool. They turn the very act of establishing logic into a source of sensory terror for the audience.
That's diabolical.
Every time a character tries to use logic by saying a number, the audience's nervous system is punished with a burst of biological horror. It trains the viewer to fear the one thing that usually brings order to chaos.
You literally start dreading the moment the characters try to figure out what's happening.
Exactly.
And the medium itself perfectly mirrors the message. The video is made by an artificial intelligence program, which is imitating human art, to tell a story about an artificial entity imitating a human being.
It's perfectly parallel.
The flawed, uncanny AI art style becomes a meta-narrative about imitation and replacement.
It is recursive horror. The very tools used to build the video are thematically identical to the monster inside the video.
Let's bring this all together. Today's deep dive explored how the reserve table takes a ridiculously simple, mundane premise, a minor mix-up with a dinner reservation, and twists it into a suffocating nightmare of corrupted memory and cosmic identity theft.
It's so effective.
And it achieves this not just through a clever narrative about objective proof clashing with subjective reality,
Mm.
but by amplifying the dread with targeted mechanical choices. They use the biological trigger of AI-generated uncanny valley imagery, forced tunnel vision with central subtitles, and deploy subliminal Pavlovian visual editing that weaponizes our own peripheral vision and logical reasoning against us.
It's a comprehensive manipulation of both the intellect and the human nervous system.
And a story like this resonates so much more intensely today than it would have even a few years ago.
Oh, without a doubt.
We consume a staggering amount of digital media, and increasingly, that includes AI-generated content. This story plays directly on a very modern, very real-world anxiety, our rapidly growing inability to trust what we see.
We are witnessing the real-time erosion of objective reality. When deepfakes, voice cloning, and AI image generation become indistinguishable from reality, our documentation loses its authority.
Whether it's a heavily manipulated video on your timeline, a digitally altered photo on your phone, or, as the story suggests, the very faces of the people sitting across from you, we are losing our grip on what is real and what is just a very convincing, slightly flawed imitation.
It really makes you second-guess everything.
The story forces us to ask a terrifying question. If our memories disagree with the physical proof we leave behind, which one is actually telling the truth?
Because when the foundation of your reality is built on digital sand, you have to wonder how easily you could be replaced without anyone noticing.
It's an incredibly unsettling place to leave things, but I want to leave you, our listener, with a final chilling concept to mull over on your own.
Something to test your own perception.
Think about this. If you were to open your phone right now and scroll back to the most recent group photo of your closest friends, if you really looked at it, zooming in on the background, examining the faces,
Take a really close look.
and you noticed a face you couldn't quite place, someone standing right there in the middle, with their arm around you, smiling perfectly at the camera with slightly too many teeth, would you trust your own memory that they weren't there? Or would you trust the photograph?